we're looking at a huge amount of interest in this. I think this is good for Bitcoin price because I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this Bitcoin thing. There's going to be a lot of activity in Bitcoin options. There's going to be, it's going to create a lot of new strategies around holding Bitcoin. And I think it's just going to be fantastic for Bitcoin. When's it going to start? Well, the SEC has approved it. So now we're waiting on the Chicago Board of Exchange, CBOE. And I think there might be a few more approvals, but it could happen pretty quick, is my understanding. But it's been approved, so I think we're going to look forward to eventually a pretty significant rise in Bitcoin and amazing trading opportunities.
Mathematician and Bitcoin expert Fred Krueger believes that we will see a whole load of excitement around Bitcoin options, and that's great news for Bitcoin's price. The Blackrock Bitcoin Options ETF will lead to new ways for people to invest and hold Bitcoin, which bodes incredibly well for its future outlook. The SEC has already given the green light, and now they're just waiting for more regulatory approvals. Once that happens, this latest ETF could be yet another catalyst for an upwards Bitcoin price movement. Make sure to watch to the end of this video where Fred Krueger provides more insight into why he thinks Bitcoin is poised to explode in value. Also, if you enjoy listening to crypto-related content, please show your support by liking and subscribing to this channel by following the link in my bio. And get access to my free daily crypto updates and expert predictions direct to your inbox. Each newsletter contains market intelligence, on-chain data and latest updates from experts in the crypto space. All of this is available completely free of charge. Signing up only takes a moment and you can always change your mind later on. Now back over to Fred Krueger.
I just wanted to give you a little bit my forecast now, given we had this 50 basis point rate cut, rate to cut. And I put a post on this on Twitter, and it really, I really like Mark Moss's thinking. Mark is a YouTuber, also on X, but really on YouTube. And he's interviewed by Natalie Brunell, and basically frames this as two possibilities. So possibility one, Trump gets in. Mark thinks it's about a 65% shot. I actually think it's a little less. I think it's more like 55% shot that Trump gets in. I do think he's going to win. He has the best chance of winning, but so I'm kind of agreeing with like Nate Silver there that he is the favorite, in my opinion. But I think it's going to be pretty close. It's going to really depend on Pennsylvania, and I don't know. Philadelphia, I don't know how this is going to turn out. But if Trump gets in, he's probably going to do a couple things. He's probably going to do some form of Bitcoin as a reserve in the reserve, and it may not be enormous. It may just be a token amount, but it's going to be significant psychologically. Other nations are going to take notice. Other nations are going to front run the U.S., and it's going to be very positive for Bitcoin. He's going to almost certainly abolish Operation Choke Point 2.0. He's going to eliminate the SEC sort of obstacles to the greater crypto ecosystem. I think that's going to go away. And I think all these things are going to be very positive for Bitcoin. And I think he's also going to be extremely aggressive on rates. And I think rates are going to go all the way down to 2% or lower by the end of 2025. So I think in that scenario, that's sort of the best possible scenario for Bitcoin. I think we're going to go to 300,000 or maybe even 400,000 by the end of next year. So I think we're looking at a 5x from here. So that's really positive. If Kamala gets in, I think it's less favorable. But I think we still have the end of the election uncertainty. I think, we're going to get rate cuts. We're going to get further rate cuts. Right now, the rate cuts are suggesting we go to 280 by the end of 2025. So let's say we get there. With the rate cuts, the new president, new administration, spending, I think we're going to get to Bitcoin 180 by the end of next year. So a 3x. So either way, we're going to get somewhere like a 3x or a 5x in either of my scenarios. And that's going to require something like, it's going to require something that's going to push the market cap from 1 trillion more or less to something like 4 trillion more or less. So you're going to need 3 trillion of additional market cap, which is going to require about $100 billion at a multiple of about 30. So can we find $100 billion in this kind of environment? I think we can, because we have currently $6 trillion sitting in money markets. We have this huge rate cut, first year of the cycle. We have all these ETFs. We have advisors are starting to come on board. We have sovereigns. We have people like Michael Dell. 100 billion should be doable. Maybe we get even many more than that, but 100 billion should be doable. Just to put things in perspective, the net ETF inflows have been only about 15 billion for so far in 2024. So, I mean, sky's the limit for 2025. And I think either way, I think we're looking at something like between a 3x and a 5x is kind of my two scenarios. And let's say the average will be 4x. So I'm happy. And so a lot of people are talking about these IBIT options, a lot of confusion, a lot of speculation. Let me add my 10 cents here. So first of all, what are these IBIT options, and what are they likely to do? Well, number one, they're going to be very popular. Why do I think that? The reason I think that is, if you look at the last 4 to 5 years, these perpetual futures that were introduced by Arthur Hayes at BitMEX have proved extremely popular. And they were popular at BitMEX. And so just to, what are these things? These are sort of a future without an expiration date, right? So instead of futures happening quarterly with quarterly expirations or monthly, depending on the future, these things are just vehicles for allowing you to get leverage without a specific expiration date, right? And they don't have any kind of delivery process. There's no mark-to-market process. There's sort of a continuous mark-to-market. And if you're at a threshold, you just get liquidated. And that's sort of the invention of perps, as they're called. And so they were very popular under BitMEX. They were shut down by the SEC. They migrated to FTX, and in fact, they pretty much are the engine that grew FTX. And then Binance basically copied and pasted, and then they became enormous on Binance, adding even more growth to Binance. So this is a very, very popular format now. There are also options on Bitcoin that are out there on Deribit, on LedgerX, which was owned by FTX. It was bought by FTX late in its existence. But these are more regulated, and in general, U.S. citizens can't take advantage of them, so they're a little less popular. But these options that are coming out right now offer many of the same features as perps, except they offer it in a much better format, and they offer it to U.S. citizens. So it's just going to be massively popular. Okay. The second thing is, let's just focus on the call option side. So IBIT call options will allow people to capture the upside of Bitcoin without limited downside. Now, a lot of people would like to add some Bitcoin to their portfolio without necessarily, putting 10% of their portfolio into Bitcoin or more, right? So how do you do this? How do you get this kind of outsized Bitcoin exposure without actually buying a very large amount of Bitcoin? You do that by adding calls. So I think there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of players that basically buy longer dated calls. And if you look at kind of the power law, right, this is exactly what the power law says you can do. It says these things, even if volatility is very high, these things are going to it's going to be a winning strategy, right? So, I think we're going to have a lot of players who want to do this, want to buy those calls. And I also think there's going to be a lot of selling of these calls, and that's really the third part. And why is that? Well, if you own Bitcoin, this is a way for you to generate quote-unquote yield off your Bitcoin. So, in spaces we've talked about sort of selling the at-the-money call option on Bitcoin, and you can sell something that's 20% out of the money, not at the money, 20% out of the money for a 1 month option. You can earn several percentage points per month by doing that. So if you just want to sit there and hold the Bitcoin, but they're sort of sell off your upside, it's a great strategy, and you can harvest the premium. And if Bitcoin does nothing, you're going to make 20% a year. And a lot of people love that. So I think there's both buyers for the call options, and there's a lot of sellers of covered call options. So, and there's different cross option strategies that can be put in play. But I just think this is going to be massive, right? The call option marketplace is going to be massive. And finally, put option buying. I think as we kind of get to new crazy heights, a lot of people are going to buy put options to hedge their risk in the case of a either temporary downturn, maybe a 1 year downturn, but maybe it's people just feel nervous about the market. I think there's going to be a lot of put buying. So I think generally speaking, we're looking at a huge amount of interest in this. I think this is good for Bitcoin price because I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this Bitcoin thing. There's going to be a lot of activity in Bitcoin options. There's going to be, it's going to create a lot of new strategies around holding Bitcoin. And I think it's just going to be fantastic for Bitcoin. When's it going to start? Well, the SEC has approved it. So now we're waiting on the Chicago Board of Exchange, CBOE. And I think there might be a few more approvals, but it could happen pretty quick, is my understanding. But it's been approved, so I think we're going to look forward to eventually a pretty significant rise in Bitcoin and an amazing trading opportunity. So
thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for news and expert predictions direct to your inbox.